One state you can't take your eye off for very long this year, as in election years past, is Florida, which is critical to both candidates, and where a brand new CNN ORC poll of likely voters shows Trump up 47 to 44 in a four-way race. The gap is 4 points in a two-way race. The Real Clear polling average for at this point has Donald Trump ahead by just 0.7 of a point. So let's check in with our friend Adam Smith of the Tampa Bay Times. Hi there, Adam. What are you seeing down there at this point?
You know, it's Florida, so Florida's a nail-biter state, and it looks like it's going to live up to that again this time. The Real Clear Politics average for the first time, I think, in a couple months now has Trump barely ahead.
And what do you attribute that to?
You know, I think she's been, her profile's been a little bit quieter. I think she's had not a great month, but I think basically this is just such a polarized electorate. This is these are such unpopular candidates. I've been spending a lot of time this week talking to voters in a swing district, and these voters can't stand either of them.
Which district is that?
This is, it's a legislative district, right? The rule of thumb in Florida is as goes Tampa Bay, goes Florida. And
right.
Just above Tampa and St. Petersburg is Pasco County. It's a county to watch when the election results come in, election night, to see who may be the next president. And in Pasco County, there's a district that's quite a bellwether district. Obama won it twice, and there's been some polling out in the last month or so that shows Trump up double digits.
Wow. You got any idea?
Yeah.
What are the people up? You've been talking to people. What are they saying?
I tell you what I'm hearing is a lot of people cannot stand either of these candidates, but one candidate represents change and the other represents status quo, and change trumps everything else in this cycle for those voters.
All right. So now, what about the candidates? I guess they're there a lot, right?
Yeah, every week we've got them once or twice, usually, or Pence or Kaine. Trump's going to be back in South Florida, in Miami on Friday. Miami's going to be a real stretch for him. That's obviously a big Hispanic area. That's where Obama really ran up the score 4 years ago, and where Trump has a lot of work to do. He's toxic in a lot of parts of Miami-Dade, where Republicans don't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, I've seen some polling recently that suggests that Hillary Clinton is doing way, way, way better than Donald Trump with minority groups, but not to the same extent Obama did. Is that consistent with what you're seeing in Florida?
Yeah, that's right. With Hispanics, the view going into this that you heard from a lot of Republicans and from the RNC was there's no way Republicans can win again if they don't do better than Romney did. Right now, it doesn't look like Trump's doing better than Romney, but nor does it look like Hillary's doing better than Obama has. So they both seem to have work to do right now. And
how about that Senate race that a lot of people are watching? Marco Rubio's attempt to retain that seat against Patrick Murphy, the congressman.
I think that may have been the big surprise in that new CNN poll. You know, looking at likely voters, Marco Rubio is way ahead in that poll. And I can tell you, I'm in a market that is barraged by TV ads. Marco Rubio, pro-Marco Rubio ads are overwhelmingly are drowning out Patrick Murphy, the Democratic candidate's ads. So there was a lot of, I think the Democrats initially had high hopes they were going to take back that seat. Then Rubio got back in, and right now, you know, it's not off the table, but Marco Rubio's looking pretty comfortable.
All right. Adam, thanks very much as always. The state of Maine, traditionally a blue state, may now be up for grabs. Maine has gone to the Democrats in the past 6 presidential elections. The Real Clear Politics average shows Hillary Clinton with a 7.2% lead, but newer polls show that lead shrinking. Scott Thistle, political reporter at the Portland Press-Herald, is in Brunswick, Maine tonight. Good evening, Scott. Tell us about what you're seeing up there.
Yeah, good evening, Britt. You know, we had a new poll out this week. The Boston Globe and Colby College released a poll. It kind of showed that Trump was picking up some speed. Clinton is still ahead now, but she hasn't gained any ground since a poll that my newspaper commissioned back in June. Clinton was at 42% of likely voters. She's still at 42%, but now Trump has come from 35 up to 39%. So that, you know, that's kind of an interesting little shift there. Donald Trump, there's only 2 congressional districts up here in Maine, unlike Florida that has many, many. But Donald Trump is clearly leading in Maine's 2nd congressional district, which is more rural, it's more blue collar, it's where most of our paper mills are. A lot of folks up there are reeling. Right? We've seen some. That's upstate, rural part of the state, northern.
Right. When I was up there during the month of August, the governor had got himself into some hot water with some remarks he made to a legislator up there, and it was all over the news. You couldn't get away from it. And I wondered whether that would have any bounce effect on the presidential race. It seems from what you're saying that it has not.
You know, of course, it depends on where you are, you know, in Maine and who you're talking to. I think Democrats were less likely to forgive the governor on that issue, but his Republican allies and folks that are, you know, sort of loyal Republicans were willing to kind of, you know, let that go. The governor had apologized to that lawmaker, and they kind of wanted to let that be behind them.
So, tell me a little bit. The state has had a tough time economically for quite a long time. The national numbers that came out this week on people's wages suggested that at last people are beginning to see an uptick in wages. What is your sense about the feeling about the economy in the state of Maine?
You know, I think every poll we've seen in the last 6 months or so, Mainers uniformly say that's their #1 concern, right? Jobs and the economy, it still ranks right up there. Obviously, Maine's one of the poorest states in the country in terms of median income. So, you know, it's still an issue. It's still an issue for Mainers. The recovery's been slow, and their paychecks have not been going up in sort of any kind of, you know, regular fashion.
Okay, Scott, good to have you on. Thanks very much.